For the technical group, Deputy Thomas Pringle. Order, please. Please. Shh, please. Deputy, please. Sorry, could you just let Deputy Pringle ask a question, please? Deputy Thomas Pringle, I've called. Let the independents have their say now. Deputy Pringle, please. Deputy Pringle.
Thank you, order.
Thomas Pringle.
Taoiseach, over the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of anger and concern expressed in relation to the fishing by factory super trawlers off our west and northwest coasts. This morning, there are 3 factory super trawlers fishing off the Donegal coast. 1 Lithuanian flagged, 1 Dutch and 1 German flagged vessel. All of these vessels are more than likely owned by a single Dutch company. They have been fishing away happily, while small inshore Irish fishing vessels cannot get quota and are not allowed to fish at all, forced to stay at home in ports all around Donegal. Everyone in Irish fishing communities knows that the EU stole our fishing stocks when we joined the EU in 1973, and successive Irish governments have refused to attempt to address this wrong for fear of upsetting the EU. Today, over 1.1 million tonnes of fish is caught in Irish waters every year, and less than 20% of that is caught by Irish fishermen. Your government's only response to this situation is to encourage foreign vessels to land their catch in Irish ports, hoping that they can be processed here, rather than try to undo the wrong that has been done to our fishing communities over many years. Taoiseach, these vessels will not land in Irish ports. They will steam to land in Holland, and your government's only option is to hope that the Dutch authorities will accurately report what they have caught. Some of this company's vessels have been exposed fishing illegally in recent years, catching fish to order and falsifying logbooks in order to underdeclare their catches. Since January this year, there has been a discard ban in place for the pelagic fishery, meaning that these vessels can no longer dump fish at sea that they don't have quota for. The Margaret, the Lithuanian factory trawler, only has a quota for horse mackerel in Irish waters. Yet I know from talking to fishermen that it is practically impossible at this time of year to catch only horse mackerel when you're fishing off the west coast. You catch mackerel as well at the same time. So either they are dumping the mackerel at sea, which is illegal, or they are processing them on board and keeping them, which is also illegal. Taoiseach, if that wasn't bad enough, as we speak at this very moment, a Donegal fisherman is watching from his home as these vessels tow away his crab pots and take his livelihood away from him and his family. Taoiseach, will you immediately order the Navy to intervene to save this fisherman's livelihood and allow him to be able to maintain an income for his family? Taoiseach, I have been in contact with the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority, and because of the weather conditions off the west coast, they say it is unsafe to board these vessels in order to expect them at sea. Will you order these vessels now to a safe harbour so that they can be inspected by our own authorities?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Well, the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority, which is the independent regulator responsible for the enforcement of the state sea fishery regulations, as you've said, has been aware of the EU-registered Lithuanian-flagged fishing vessel, the Margaret, since it has entered into our Irish waters. So in keeping with standard practice for all vessels, it is being continuously monitored by the Naval Service. The vessel is operating within the Irish Exclusive Economic Zone under the Common Fisheries Policy. Any EU vessel can fish in any region's EU waters where they have a quota. And this vessel has a quota entitling it to fish for fish such as scad, horse mackerel within EU waters, and it's authorised to conduct fishing activity in this area. As with all vessels, it has to record its catches and set them against quotas in compliance with EU sea fisheries legislation. The Margaret and all vessels operating in Irish waters are monitored continuously by the Naval Service through the Fisheries Monitoring Centre at the Naval Base in Haulbowline, using satellite vessel monitoring, the automatic identification system and the electronic reporting systems. and the authority is committed to ensuring that EU quotas are fairly and sustainably managed continuously. This year, with the support of the Naval Service, there has been a prioritisation to implement the new landing obligation by all vessels operating within the Irish zone.
Deputy Thomas Pringle for a supplementary question.
Taoiseach, you haven't addressed the questions I asked you, the direct questions I asked you. As we are speaking right now, these vessels are destroying the livelihood of an Irish fisherman, an Irish Donegal fisherman, who depends on the gear that he has at sea to try and feed his family and keep his vessel going. It's simple for this government to tell the Navy to intervene with that vessel and stop them destroying the livelihood of Irish fishermen. That is happening right as we're speaking. He has tried to contact these vessels by radio to inform them that they're towing through his gear. They will not take his call. They will not respond to him. It is no good for Navy personnel to be sitting down in Haulbowline watching a computer screen these vessels. They should be out there now intercepting them to protect fishermen's livelihoods. Taoiseach, the response just simply isn't good enough, and it needs to be addressed urgently. Alongside this, Uplift, an online pressure group, have a petition with over 30,000 signatories condemning the actions of these super trawlers off our Irish coast. And fishermen are sickened right across the coast because they have to sit at home and watch these vessels continue to fish straight across outside their homes. And you are standing idly by and allowing it to happen. Last summer, a Danish vessel in the Irish Sea had penalty points awarded to it by the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority, the very effective agency. The Danish government refused to add those penalty points to their licence. And they totally ignored the Common Fishery Policy rules in a flagrant breach, but yet we do nothing. You continue to allow this to happen. Will you today protect Irish fishermen by ensuring that these vessels are held to account for towing away the gear of this Donegal fisherman?
Taoiseach to reply.
Yeah, well, these issues are very, very important, obviously, to the fishing community around our coasts. And as I said, the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority is the independent regulator which is responsible for the enforcement of the state's sea fisheries regulation. And what I said to you is that the vessel that you referred to and any other vessels involved are being continuously monitored by the Naval Service. Also, the basic regulation changes to fisheries policy involving access or restriction to fishing opportunities comes within the sole competency of the EU. Now, I will take your concerns to the Minister for the Marine, who, as you know, is extremely active on these issues with the Commission and with the various other EU agencies. But only the EU Commission can propose changes, and any such proposal has to be adopted under the co-decision process of the European Parliament and the EU Council. So member states affected and stakeholders can bring in non-discriminatory measures for the conservation and management of fish stocks within the 12-mile zone, subject to compliance with policy. But access to this is set down in the regulation, and it can't be changed by an individual member state. So what I will do, Deputy, is I will raise your concerns, and I know you've raised them already, with the Minister for the Marine. He is, and as you know, there are very detailed talks due next month, and he will raise them with the EU Commission, because in terms of regulation and in terms of authority, these matters have to be agreed. I'd like to be able to say to you that EU Commission rules have literally no effect in Ireland and that we can ignore them, but in fact we do have to go back to the Commission and talk to the Commission about how to best protect local fishermen like you're suggesting, as opposed to the super tankers you're talking
Thank you, Taoiseach. And that concludes leaders' questions in the order of business. So could we